Cruz. Looks like there is plenty of fight left in the dog tonight.
The first man to enter the joint will be the challenger from San Diego, California. Please welcome Dominick Cruz at 21 years of age.
I just remember for that WEC, Reed Harris didn't put me on the poster, which I still talk trash to him about.
Just my name in fine print at the bottom, and Uriah's big chin right there, just sitting on the poster, and it just pissed me off. I said, man, what's this all about? I'm good enough to fight him for the title, but I'm not good enough to be on the poster. I'm gonna be on this poster. I signed right there on his face.
So I signed on Faber's face, and now they made a rule where you can't sign on people's face. Well, they didn't tell me I couldn't then. The reason I did that was I wasn't on the poster, and I'm fighting the main event. So it's like, I need that promotion. I'm my own brand as well. So, you know, it pissed me off. And I went in there with a chip on my shoulder. Then when I got to the walkout, the pressure hit me. It was like, holy cow. Like, I'd never been on TV. I'd just never been built like that. I'd never thought that I could be that. And so when I felt it, it was like a hit in the face. The first hit in the face before the hit in the face. So it was intense, but I got through it best I could.
He's tapping out. That's it.
Learned a lot and fixed my grappling, and I didn't lose again for like a decade after that. So it taught me a lot.
The champion, Brian Bowles, taking on Dominick Cruz. This one will be explosive.
At WC 47 against Brian Bowles, it was a different kind of championship win because he just handed me the belt.
Brian Bowles is forced to bow out of this fight, and so Dominick Cruz will get the victory.
He said that he broke his hand, but I had also broken my hand. I just didn't tell the doctor. So that alone set the standard for who wanted to be there. And I did. He just said, here you go, you can have it. This is too hard. And the truth is, I chopped his leg off. He had no leg left. So I think that if he would have stayed in there, it would have been bad brain damage for him. So he probably made a good choice. So UFC 132 was a pretty crazy fight because it was Faber, and we had been in this rivalry for so long that when rivalries are weird because they become a part of that human being that you don't like becomes the person you have around you the most.
I had no doubt that we would not see the touching of the gloves.
So I don't know if anybody's ever heard this, but what you resist persists has never sounded so true. And I really resisted that guy, and so he continued to persistently be in my face until I got him out of there. But I learned a lot. He elevated me to another level, so in the end I'm grateful that I had that with him, and I learned some of my biggest lessons in that rivalry because I took a lot of the gifts that he had and I used them today.
And still!
Instead of looking at him as like I can't stand everything that he is, I was able to, over the years, look at him and say, what's making him successful? If I can take those things from him and add them to my repertoire, I'm going to be even harder to beat. And I was able to do that. And so to this day, I got a little bit of Faber in my style, I think.
In 2012, Dominick Cruz suffered his first major injury. Every professional athlete's worst nightmare, a torn ACL.
And so I was just working and working and working and working to get back in there to prove that I was still there and I was still good.
The former UFC Bantamweight champion.
So then when I move on to UFC 178 and I fight Mizugaki, now that one was very different. I'd never walked into a fight feeling so at ease because everybody had already written me off. I'd been out with so many injuries for so long that people thought I had no chance.
Rehabilitating. His takedown. All over Mizugaki. Trying to finish it right now. He's out. It's over. And it's all over. Dominick Cruz is back. Welcome back, Dominick Cruz.
They were almost putting me there as a former champion to build Mizugaki to get ready to show how good he was. And for me to go out there the way I did and finish him in a minute, it was just, I really needed that because it showed me not only where I was, but it gave me the confidence I needed to get the title shot next and beat TJ Dillashaw. Mizugaki, he was just such a tough guy that I was really nervous before that. But then to not have any chance by everybody, for everybody to say there's no way, it almost like, should I even be here? after the amount of injuries that I've had after the layoff, should I even be able to compete? It's pretty amazing that I'm just standing here today. And with that kind of peace, it let me let go of the win and the loss factor and just show up and be in the present moment. And I executed flawlessly in that fight.
It was the most amazing, most ferocious, and spectacular version of Dominick Cruz we'd ever seen inside the octagon. Unfortunately, right after that fight, he blew his knee out again.
Yeah, well, after I fought Mizugaki, I had had a staph infection 3 weeks before that Mizugaki fight, and I'd taken an antibiotic called Cipro. And that antibiotic weakens your tendons for up to 6 months after you take it. So then my right knee blew out after I had already sustained 2 left knee blowouts. So when my right knee blew out, I had another year off after that Mizugaki win. And I remember I was on a boat, I was 175 pounds fat, out of shape, trying to just resting my body and getting it had been exactly 7 months since my surgery. And they asked me to fight at the 9-10 month mark, which meant that I would have been 100%. And Sean Shelby asked me if I wanted that fight. And I remember I was drinking beers on a boat, literally on antidepressants at the time. Fat, miserable. And that fight, I remember I was kind of hammered, so I was like, yes, I'll kill him, let's go. And then I get done with that day, and I'm like, holy shit, I just booked a fight, and I'm really fat.
TJ Dillashaw versus Dominick Cruz is the most important fight in the history of the bantamweight division. It is the return of the former champion in Dominick Cruz, a guy who never lost the title, but was forced to relinquish his title because of a series of catastrophic injuries.
It was just a crazy reality check, but I got right on the pedal, and I was able to get it done. To be able to fight Casey Kenny and get that win after 2 championship losses back-to-back was extremely needed. I needed to just win. And not just win, but against a younger guy who had been working up in the division and looking good. So I wanted to fight somebody who was good, not just somebody who was also a southpaw, because a lot of the division was southpaw. So when Sean Shelby offered me that fight, and he's from Arizona, I said, yeah, let's go. And when I took it to go out there and perform the way I did, it was very needed, and it felt good to get in there. I picture myself being the vintage me in WEC. I'm going to have to pull that guy out of this in this fight against Pedro Munoz. He's got a style that I built my whole style around beating, which is a linear fighter moving forward and back that's a finisher with power, relies on his power a lot. So my style's built for guys like this, so you're going to see the vintage me.